Alright, so we're starting on the back here, and what we're doing is removing these steps here, and they're just covering up steel. It's tread plate. This one just basically fell off. See how much rust jacking's underneath there. So now we're gonna get this one off, and we're cutting these off, making this flush here. It'll be a much cleaner look. Important step here. Anytime I use a plasma cutter or welder or what have you on the truck, I don't just disconnect one negative cable. I'm always certain disconnect them all, just in case I happen to overlook a ECM ground or something, and you know, there might be a video that, ooh, yeah, that's gonna have to be cleaned up. Yeah, okay. All right, that's on. That needs some attention. Look at that. That's got the green crusties going on right there. That needs to be taken care of as well. It's also important to note that on any type of conversion, you need to make sure that the other batteries are disconnected as well. This is kind of difficult to do in this one because this is where the batteries are and the latch won't open. Something's wrong here. I think we're just gonna have to cut it to get it open and slide the batteries out, because if you don't disconnect these batteries are still connected to this. Even if there's a disconnect switch, if that disconnect switch isn't disconnected, then it's the same as though we didn't disconnect batteries. So I guess we got to figure out what we're doing here. All right, we got it open. We got two group 31 deep cycles in here. It's just like I was saying, you know, you're not really disconnected, because if that disconnect switch that disconnects the what's called the chassis from the coach, okay, or the chassis from the upfit, then you're still connected, and you can fry a lot of stuff that way. And I can tell you this because we had a friend of ours go through this exact problem. These batteries are from 2015. They really should be replaced and taken out of here. Look at this one's leaking acid here. So I'm just gonna go ahead and disconnect them, because when they get old and they start leaking, they're a little unpredictable. You don't want them shorting out and, you know, catching fire or something ridiculous like that. So I'll just take all these off, put the nuts back on, and leave the cables down here in the tray. There, okay, there we go. Okay, so I have been smacking this with a hammer, using the needle scaler, knocking off all the rust I can. I cut off those two bumpers, those things we knocked off, and then there was the actual bumper, the steps that were mounted to it, and I've cut them off with a plasma cutter. Actually, I cut this off and this was still welded, and I just hit it with a hammer. And same thing on that side, just knocked them off. I'm not real happy with this. There's a lot of thin metal in here. This is exceptionally thin. There's a lot of places that I just am not happy with. I've been needle scaling on this, trying to get it cleaned up to see what we got to work with. And I think I'm gonna have to redo my plan. I'm gonna have to change it. Yeah, it's just not what I want. I think we can do better. Here's the original truck frame, which they cut off at an angle because there used to be a step here that we removed that would tilt in. So it needed the clearance so the step could tilt in. So the frame's been cut there. Pretty rough, to say the least. Now, this is 6-inch C-channel right here, and that's pretty stout, but it's so far up underneath there that it doesn't offer any support out here. So what I really need is something from here out to here, because we're going to plate this. So I'm going to look for either truck frame or steel, plate steel, whatever I have, because, you know, anything anything built off of this is going to pivot off of here. Does that make sense? So if we put a load out here, it's pushing on this, which is twisting this. So our strength is in triangles, so we need something to go from here to here. From this up to the truck frame to hold this part up. I could achieve that simply by welding some steel from here down, which is what I'm kind of looking at right now. This is going to be where the receiver tube is going to lay, right on these two, and then come back here and tie into this. So by doing that, I really need something up this way in the way of the receiver tube, because this isn't strong enough right here to make me happy, because even if I support it out here, it still has to span this, and this will want to give. So this will want to give. So what I need to do is I need to tie this part here with a piece of plate to fill this in and tie that plate into here, and then possibly go from this point where the receiver tube is up to here, over that way. So, and it's tight. There's really no space in here to work. It's going to be difficult, very difficult. Well, I don't know. It'll be difficult to get in there to weld. That's what I should say. But I'm really thinking about taking this off. It's already missing a couple rivets here and there. If I just take this off, then it allows me to get behind here. I won't be able to get on top to weld or anything, but it'll make it easier to get my plate fit. Because I'd like my plate to come up like this and then back in and come behind this thing. Okay, so it's trimmed out nicely, but I'm not sure. Yeah, we'll see if we can get this off here. I think that might help me. Plus, I'm gonna be doing some welding. The last thing I want is weld spatter to get on this and, you know, be rusty. So, yeah, that's probably a good idea. Alright, so I took that aluminum tread plate off and the rear mud flap so we can get a little more access, because I need my plate that we're putting out here to be, you know, as far in here as we can. Look how bad that is. A lot of corrosion in between the two. A bunch of these rivets were broken already, so it just made good sense so we can get a much cleaner deal here. So I got the mud flap out. Now what I'm thinking about doing is taking, I had some 1/4-inch plate steel bent into a C. So we're gonna run it down in here underneath this, and I want to run it way up underneath the truck because there's just nothing here. You can get a good idea there how far back in the frame is. So in order to make me happy to haul what he wants to haul and not have any troubles, I'm gonna cut this cross member temporarily. We're gonna remove that, and I'm gonna run my channel up in here. So I'll get the plasma cutter out now, see if I can cut that off pretty clean. I mean, it'd be better to cut it with something where I can get a straighter cut, but I'm gonna have to grind it smooth anyways, and when I put it back, this is gonna need to be shorter by a 1/2 inch anyhow, so it's really not gonna matter. Okay, so I've got the C channel cut out that used to go across there, and now I'm grinding it flat right here. That's a groove that I've ground in there because I'm going to weld that C channel. That C channel was welded on that face, but seeing how I cut it off, there's no weld there, so I ground a groove in it so I can lay a weld back in, and then I'll grind my weld smooth, put a nice V in there, and I'm grinding anywhere I think I might be welding. It's taken a while because this is pretty crusty metal, and this side here I'm just starting on. I had to change grinding discs. It looks really rough right there in the camera, but if you look this way, we're almost there. And I just use a speed square for a straight edge, go across and make sure I'm straight. As straight as this thing is, actually. So we'll have to keep that in mind, that, you know, this piece here has a bunch of rust jacking going on. So, you know, I may have to do some creative welding here, because I can see right now, if you can see this piece of C channel's turned like this. So it's only going to be as good as I can get it, but I'll do my best. Okay, so this is what I'm thinking. I had this plate bent. This is 1/4-inch plate made into a C, and we're going to weld it down here to this structure here. We'll weld it to that upright C channel there, and then we're going in this way by the shock, And we're going to create a bracket that's going to come down. There's a bolt hole here. I'm going to try and see if I can just get a strap right in here. I'm not sure how that's going to work out. It's certainly going to get tight in here really fast to weld. I don't know. I don't want to weld anything to the frame. I don't have a problem welding to this. It's just really rusty and crusty. It's not going to be very easy to get that cleaned up in there. I like my airbag protector shields. Alright, so I'm adding this piece of plate. It's 1/2 inch thick. On the side of the frame coming down with this shock mount is right there. So I need to take a 1/2 inch off this shock mount so it's not, leaning. So I just leaned it up against, I just welded it to this piece of 1/2 inch plate. Marked it for a 1/2 inch. We're going to see if we can cut it. Chop saw. Exactly a 1/2 inch. Okay, now cut it loose from the plate here. I laid my holes out, and I wanted this to sit 100% on this plate of steel. Okay, so then I drilled a 1/2 inch hole here, and there we go. That way my shock is still in its original location, and then this will come right about here. Yeah. So we'll bolt this in place and we'll get it squared. Okay. And once it's bolted in place, we'll do the other side. We'll weld this in last. We'll clean this all up and get it ready, and clean this piece up, and then tack weld it in place. We're not welding anything fast until we have everything in and squared the best we can and fit. So now I just need to make another one of these for the other side. Alright, so if you look here, you see how bad these are rust jacked, right? And I can't build on something that's not square and true, because this is not, it's not as strong as it will be. So this just goes to prove my point is, I wanted to take this apart, get the rust jacking out of here. I touched the nut with my impact. I hit it once and it popped. That's how close these were to breaking. So what may have happened is you put a load on here. If we hadn't looked into this, this would have broke and bent down. Look at all the rust that just fell out from between these two on me. And only one of them didn't break. The rest of them, as soon as I barely touched them, you can see how far recessed that one is now, because of how much rust jacking there is. And it's starting to come out now, but we'll beat it on there and see if we can get it out. But I'm gonna have to cut one of them because it's the head's just spinning over here. It's so rotted. So we'll be replacing these with some grade 8 bolts. Took an air hammer and beat on the inside of the frame, and this is all that came out from between the frames, the frame and the bracket. So you can see what a gap it is now, but all the rust is out. So now the task is squeezing these two back together and then replacing these bolts with some good grade 8 new bolts. And that'll be the first part of this, and then I can feel a little better, because right now it feels like instead of me adding my hitch to this and using this as support, if I don't do something to correct the issues, my hitch is going to be holding this crap up. I mean, it's in pretty rough shape. I've considered cutting all this crap out and starting over, because this suits for what they were using it for, but it doesn't work for us. Alright, so there's been a little change in plans. I was sitting here contemplating how to make this thing work right. And I'm going to show you what I struggled with. This is what was on the back of it, okay? And typically, you know, when you're adding a hitch, when you add your hitch to it, you use what's there to help strengthen your hitch. But in this case, I thought that by putting the hitch on, I was actually strengthening this, because this is all in really bad shape. It's really a lot of rust and thin spots and all that kind of mess. So while I was sitting there contemplating what I wanted to do, I decided to go ahead and live stream. So we had almost 200 people in the live stream, and we were chatting about this, that, and the other. And the owner of the truck, Justin, happened to join in, which is really nice. And I told him what I was thinking. I was thinking about cutting all this crap out. I'm just not happy with it. My plan is to take and have a liner made to go inside this frame, just like a C that will go in here. And we're going to go clear up there. You can see that bolt right up there at the airbag. We're going to run it clear up to there, and we're going to run it all the way back to here. So that will, instead of just letting our hitch hang off of this single frame, what we're going to do is we're going to strengthen this frame and then add our hitch to it. Now, that will be inside there. We're still going to use those brackets I made where the shocks are and come down, because the hitch tube is going to come in 3 feet. So the farther we go in, the more control we have over that hitch tube moving like this and moving this way. So we'll use both those drops. We'll have a cross member. The receiver tube will hit the cross member. So that's how we'll accomplish that. And then out here, this frame's going to come out. I don't know if I'll stop here, if I'm going to notch it and come around here. I'd probably stop it and just keep the steel back in this area somehow. And it'll come down like this. Then we'll have a second brace coming off to the bottom of this plate. Now the plate is just something to support the weight here, okay? So it's going to come across like this. The receiver tube will be here, and then we'll have a box tubing underneath it that it all welds to. That box tubing will be our bumper, but it's also going to be the support for the rear of the hitch. So it'll strengthen everything up. It should look much cleaner, much neater, much nicer. At least that's the plan. So I've made a profile. I've taken cardboard and made a profile of this and measured what I needed. So I'm gonna go drop that off to my guy. I've made a material list. We're gonna be adding some significant cost to this hitch because steel prices are just through the roof right now. The world's just a crazy place. It's just ridiculous. But it's not gonna stop us from making something safe. And I'm much happier with putting the liner in and then coming down this way, and then, you know, we'll still do some more work down here. But I think we got a good plan. So let me get some material and we'll bring you back. If this is too long already, we'll probably just stop here, and when I get the material, we'll go back to work on it. So if that's the case, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Catch you on the next one.